Hello, everybody. We will get started shortly. Wait for folks to gather. I put a link to the agenda in the Zoom chat. Everybody make it home from Vancouver, okay?
Yeah, had a pretty nice flight because I got lucky and had the middle seat empty.
Oh,
So
excellent.
I could spread comfortably.
Yeah, my way home was much easier than my way there. Oh no! Lost Madison's luggage.
It's
Ugh.
very sad, but it made it home, thankfully, but just late.
Knock on wood, I did not have any baggage troubles, and I unfortunately checked this time, so it was risky. Yeah, I had a bunch of stupid geese hats.
That's fine. I'm not judging.
I normally would not, but I had all these stupid geese that I was peer pressured into bringing.
I'm in Florida, and I almost made my family check all of our not checked bags, but I lost that discussion.
I'll be going to Florida Thursday afternoon.
It is here. There is ocean. There is sun.
Do you have the stinky seaweed?
No, not where we are.
Good.
Yeah, no stinky seaweed.
I guess it's supposedly a very big problem down Key West, Miami way.
Oh, yeah, we're in the Panhandle near Air Force bases, but where am I? Destin?
Oh, yeah.
Panama City, I think, area. Anyway,
I've heard very good things about that place.
I have been twice now, and it still has thumbs up for me. So, yeah.
Excellent.
Copy.
All right, folks, if you have any items you would like to talk about today, please add them to our agenda. I don't think we have any PRs or anything to go over yet. Yeah, no PRs or issues, so we're good there. But if you have anything you'd like to add, do so, and please mark your attendance. That'd be groovy. Do we have someone that's interested in helping us take notes?
I can try, but that almost always implies that I cannot talk at the same time.
So no pressure, just everyone's welcome to also assist as possible.
I can assist.
Groovy. Do we have anyone that this is their first time to our little OpenVEX party?
I think it may be my first time to this meeting, but yeah, I guess. Hi, my name is Brandon. Helping out with the maintenance of OpenVEX as well, and like everyone here, involved with SBOMs and everything under the sun of supply chain security.
Well, welcome, Brandon. We're very glad to have you here.
Okay.
Art, do you have any amazing wisdom to share from the mothership CISA groups? I know that the VEX crew is hurriedly working on when to issue a VEX document, and they just had recently published the minimum viable entries for what is to be considered a VEX. But aside from that, I think things are going to be quiet-ish from the SBOM VEX world until June with the SBOMorama.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of. That's all a fair summary. We'll see what comes of SBOMorama. Sometimes the in-person hybrid point in time events, drive things, as you all know. From the VEX side, yeah, minimum elements is out. And the as you mentioned, the Win2 issue is under development. It's going okay. There's a unwritten schedule goal to have a shareable sort of draft of that for the SBOM-ORAMA, which is June 14th.
Yeah,
I believe that note came out on that as well. So at least be able to say, hey, if you have comments on this, here it goes. Nothing super controversial. Who did I get? It was probably a handful of the same usual suspects. I feel like I stumbled into yet another discussion about VEX implementations and CISA issuing requirements or not requirements that aren't requirements that are but aren't. And I was going to suggest to this group or do it myself. It's my strong suspicion that all of the VEX implementations actually comply with the non-standard standard minimum elements, since we did the work going through there. Puerco, I see your nonverbal expression. So I was going to ask, and I don't care that the answer is A or B, but how closely does OpenVEX align with the minimum elements doc? Mostly if somebody tries to, come at me with a discussion again, I have the right answer. I don't care what it is, just, oh, here, these are misses, or it's completely aligned, or OpenVEX thinks the minimum elements totally suck and we're doing something else. All are fine answers. I should be more informed when I get into fights with people. So, but anyway, nothing exciting, nothing else to note coming out of CISA, SBOM, VEX. I will add this. This is open information, but may not be agreeable by everyone involved in the conversation. VEX came from SBOM, the idea being that, hey, SBOM is going to reveal all these upstream dependencies full of known vulnerabilities. I want to be able to tell people, chill out, not affected, or don't chill out, affected. Minimum elements make sense. What is a VEX makes sense. What are the statuses? All those things make sense. When to issue? Okay. It occurs to me that VEX is now getting kind of fully into, this is now just vulnerability tracking and management land, which is not SBOM land. So I'm hesitant, I don't know what the future of the VEX working group within the CISA community effort will be, but if it's heading off towards vulnerability land, which is a land I love and would happily play in, that's not SBOM focused. So I have considered and suggested the idea of turning down the VEX working group at some point on some kind of high note, like a deliverable, and then intentionally saying, great, closing this off, we're going to reinvest our efforts in more SBOM things. So for discussion, that's an idea. Has not been super officially discussed or fought about or debated yet. That's been on my mind.
That is
for a
up
couple
at
months.
CISA, correct?
That's the CISA, SUSE and CISA.
Oh, SUSE.
I saw a video about SUSE. How's how you say it? Anyway, yeah. So just for I know we're all involved. The idea that the VEX path at CISA is diverging from the SBOM path, which kind of makes some logical sense. Maybe we focus back on SBOM. CISA's choice ultimately, but I'll just kind of raise that issue here. So, okay, I've said a lot now, so I'll be quiet. Yeah.
Puerco, do you want to respond to the minimum elements?
Yeah, this actually ties nicely to the first item I have for discussion. So
awesome.
I was waiting for the publication of the document of the minimal requirements doc just to make a final pass on the on where the spec is now and where we want it to be. The goal is to have that document implemented in the spec, so it should be completely compatible. But I did the pass because I was also working on the SPDX VEX version. So we are missing one field in document and like 3 at the statement level. So I will be opening a pull request just to add those probably today or tomorrow. so that's the idea. So this is regarding just matching the idea of the minimal requirements. On whether the formats are completely compliant. Well, I don't know what words to use because sometimes
Yeah, I don't either.
you
Yeah.
get into trouble, but yeah, if they match those minimal requirements, the answer is not really. So
Okay.
because OpenVEX and SPDX came after the publication of the document, we have a much easier job in doing that. So right now, the way we have the documents, maybe, well, yeah, something I can show you. Yeah, let me share. I don't know if I can share my screen. Yeah, I can. So this is the slide that I presented about VEX in the SPDX mini summit.
Oh.
So with the upcoming release of SPDX4, we will now have 4 VEXes. And so you have the idea of VEX in the middle, and then you can go from and to OpenVEX, from and to SPDX. And in the case of CSAF and CycloneDX, you can only go from those to the idea of the VEX minimal requirements, but you cannot go back to those because they're missing fields. Especially those, I feel the most important ones, which are the dates on the statements. So if you don't have those dates, you cannot order them.
Yeah.
Cyclone, I know Cyclone is working on them for the 1.5 release. I haven't talked to Thomas recently, so I don't know what CSAF plan is for that. So I feel, but for their use cases, especially for CSAF, I feel they're in a good position to VEX as planned. Because the like, especially OpenVEX, since it's a format to be designed to be more lightweight and to iterate more rapidly, I feel it's more important to us. And CSAF, I see it as a big, grand document representing a big product that already has that information in it. So, I mean, it's not something that I expect to hit them, to affect them in a big way. So, but overall, I feel we're in a VEX itself. It's in a good shape.
I see Brandon has his hand up. We can't hear you, sir, if you are talking.
How about now?
Yes.
Awesome. As usual, Monday blues. I had a clarifying question. I know we had there's like the minimum elements of minimum requirements for VEX document going out, and then there's the data model, and then another document that's going out. I think I was out for a bit from the working group meetings, but it wanted to kind of make sure I get a sense for the like complementary documents, or whether one's supposed to replace the other eventually, or like where are we on that?
Yeah, you're talking about the CISA community working group stuff.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think there were 2 documents that came out, right?
Oh,
There
there was at least another SBOM doc. I think it was the types of SBOM doc, which I don't think interferes with VEX.
No, I so
Something
I know
else?
there was let me try and bring it up. So there was a data model one, the 0.9.0 data model requirements, right? That one I remember we worked on, and then there was another use cases type document that had similar wording. Give me 2 seconds to see what I can find that.
Sure. It is possible.
Yeah.
There's only one doc from those 2, but yeah.
So minimum requirements for, okay. I have one. Okay, so this one is one of them. Let me paste in chat. And then there's another one, which was this one.
Oops.
This one.
Yeah,
Ah,
that
okay.
one is published. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's repeated information, and like I feel like I think there was like a little bit of like two different groups who were working on it. So,
Yeah, I think I can answer. I mean, my summary is that the CISA SBOM community working group for VEX it's a volunteer thing. There were a couple of shorter docs that went out, including the use cases from April 2022. The first one you put in the chat, Brandon, has become and been officially published as the CISA minimum requirements for VEX. It turned into that. There were lots of discussions about, is it a spec? Is it a data model? It resulted in the CISA publication. So the only in progress, in flight, CISA community oriented VEX doc is a when to issue document, which I sort of consider companion, not minimum elements, not requirements, not a spec. It's more discussion oriented. Hey, so you're being told or think you might have to do VEX. Who would do VEX? When would you issue it? I would call it a bunch of examples. My version of the document is a single sentence that says whenever you want to, but
okay.
People wanted to write more. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this was. I was trying to figure out whether it sounds like my interpretation of it that document with the minimum requirements is kind of like in terms of specifying the fields would kind of supersede the April 2022 document.
It is meant to be informed by the April 2022 doc, and I'm pretty sure it does not disagree with the April 2022 doc. But the minimum requirements is much more comprehensive and closer to, don't tell anybody it's a specification, or it is a data model. I looked it up at Wikipedia. Yeah. It is a data model also. I mean, okay. So the VEX, the minimum requirements for VEX is consistent with the use cases doc, and there's another VEX status justifications doc from before, a couple of short two pages or so. Yeah, unless we screwed something up, which is possible, minimum elements aligns with those. So there's some sort of consistency threading going on. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think I got a word from here and there. I think there were some discussions, and then people brought up different documents. I was like,
yeah, I missed some months of VEX, and I'm not sure I regret missing them, but some stuff happened, and I'm like, what's going on? Anyway, and can I say real briefly too? Thanks, Adolfo. And just to be super clear, I am not. It is entirely possible that the minimum elements document, is wrong or will be proven to be insufficient or incorrect or something. I am looking forward to anyone actually doing VEX and finding out what works in the real world reality, right? To feed back into, possible changes or a new rev of that document if need be. So I'm not saying, hey, OpenVEX, we better comply with the committee drafted requirements. I'm just curious where the gaps are as we learn them, so that I'm aware of them when I'm talking to people. And it is totally okay to say, hey, OpenVEX and SPDX decided to do X, which is different. And here's why that we think we should do it that way, right? Or Cyclone or anyone else for that matter. So it's just awareness, not saying in advance that one way is right or wrong. So thanks.
Yeah, I would love for us to review that, and if it makes sense to update the OpenVEX work from the minimum requirements, that would be nice, just so we're at the beginning generally in alignment. In the near future, we had some conversation last time about kind of what our purpose was for this group, and I agreed with the conversation how we were talking about expanding the scope a bit, not to just focus on the execution of OpenVEX, but to also kind of talk about more broadly about exploitation and these kind of tools, and then the broader evangelism goal we had talked about. And I'll put a note on May 25th is the next Vulnerability Disclosures Working Group Australia call. And that's where the OSV team engages with the foundation. And I think I would, if possible, I would ask folks from OpenVEX and this little SIG here to participate in that call to see if there's any synergy between OpenVEX and OSV. And as Art mentioned, I would love to see people actually using it, and so we can provide that feedback to the back to CISA, or just to the community in general. Adolfo.
Yeah, I was discussing during in Vancouver all week with people and trying to understand what would best work for, especially for open source projects who don't have like a very large organization that handles, disclosure and all of that. And I think I have a good idea on how to make it work. So I'm planning to build a little demo and maybe present it 2 weeks from now, so when we meet again. And I think it's gonna start enabling issuing VEX for projects. So I'll just say that, but then I'll come back with a fun little demo.
Awesome. Look forward to it, sir. Any additional thoughts or comments on the upstream working group or the minimum requirements doc? Anything we've discussed so far? All right. Tactically, Jay.
Where are we at with the IP transfer and everything?
I have to ask Dan. I don't know.
And is that how is that impacting our ability to update the README in the repo?
It doesn't affect us at all to update our SIGs repo. And I think I would like to kind of see if we can get zeroed in on the vision, mission, and scope and start to get that repo filled out. And then I'll follow up with Dan about how the legal review is going and see kind of where that is, see if we can get that wrapped up. And then I would encourage us all, whether we are awesome developers like Puerco, or if you're policy dorks like Art and I would love to take a look at the original OpenVEX repo and see what we can do to try to help augment that, to add to their README an FAQ, additional information, just so that is a much more useful and robust resource as people start to actually use the tooling and the spec. Did I address your question, sir?
Oh yeah, you did. I just want for the good of the order. I just wanted that to get re-mentioned and everything like that, right along with minimum requirements stuff and all of that stuff. That we're
yeah, the wheels of bureaucracy turn slowly, and I will follow up with Dan. Okay. If I could turn your attention to the meeting agenda. Initially, Jay had given us a proposal for the vision, mission, and scope for this group. And last time we had a conversation, Isaac had some additional feedback, did some tweaks, and I'd like for us to see if we can maybe come to an agreement and then get our README file updated so that we can start to encourage people to understand who we are and how to engage with us. Let's start with the vision. I'll put that into the chat right there. The proposal is software consumers can understand, manage, and reduce risks from known vulnerabilities and upstream components. Free tools and standard formats provide a foundation on which to build reliable, efficient, and pragmatic end-to-end risk control workflows. So that's a lofty vision for kind of our why we want to be here. What are our thoughts on that? At least from my perspective, that seems to account for the management of the spec, the integration of tools, the evangelism throughout the ecosystem, the engagement with other things like SPDX and Cyclone and CSAF. So I think it gives us enough room that however we wish to take this, we have that flexibility.
Sounds good to me. I mean, I don't know. I feel that I would need to go into a very deep introspection, cosmic vibes to come up with something better. But I mean,
well,
yeah,
and we
that's-
do have the ability that once it's updated, we have through the magic of GitHub, we can manage it with PRs if we wanted to make changes or adjustments as we learn new things.
Sure.
All right. Is anyone opposed to those words? Very minor suggestion. Yes, Art.
No, just the word control struck me as perhaps it's a boring word, but risk management, we don't really have that much control over things. So that's all.
He's talking about like
I don't mind it.
security controls, but I agree.
It
Management.
leapt to my fingertips. I'm not going to fight about it. We can leave it as is. I like it. Thank you.
I prefer
Just
that.
one. Did we had? I think Jay kicked us all off, right? Is this in line with what you had? Like, I don't have the language side by side or anything, but are you cool with this, Jay? Is it line up with your stuff?
This is like a evolution to it.
Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure.
It
Just
was
checking.
the up level past just what we're doing with OpenVEX and like OpenVEX be a tool that gets developed as a result. But I think the idea behind the vision, mission, and of the SIG is, up leveling it a bit to focus on vulnerability exploitation and stuff like that in general. So I'm good with this as long as what we end up producing as a result comes in alignment with our efforts and something actually comes out of it, like a tool or something like that, right? I want to make sure that we do something. I'm good with these words. Though.
And Sandcat agrees around the alteration to management. So I think we're good there. Any other commentary before we move on to the mission?
Do it again.
All right. So, and again, if anyone has any thoughts upon future reflection, you can add that either as comments onto this agenda, or once we get it into the README, you can file issues or PRs against it, depending on kind of what you're looking for. Let's look at mission. The proposed rewording is create an ergonomic specification for interchange of vulnerability exploitability information and drive adoption of operational patterns, putting it into practical use. So this is more of the, not necessarily the why. Your vision is kind of the why. This is more of the what.
To that one, I would add two things. One, to keep it minimal in scope to VEX. And the second one, that it should be able to be embedded in other formats.
Okay. How do does anyone see an easy way to react to Puerco's feedback on the proposed mission?
Well, you know, so Porto's feedback is kind of, man, it's what I hope that we not necessarily avoided with the vision, but the mission itself, that might be too narrow according to the vision. The vision is far reach. Well, the vision is supposed to be far reaching, but not so far reaching that we narrow everything on the mission down to one specific item. I think the item gets produced as a result. I think that the mission needs to come up a little bit as well, according to the vision. Based on the vision, I'm good with the mission that's written. I think that's narrow enough according to the vision. Otherwise, the vision itself might need to be narrow.
What other thoughts or comments do we have?
Maybe something about like while maintaining interoperability between, like I don't know if we want to have it stated somewhere that we do want to aim not to diverge too much from existing like VEX specification standards, kind of like in the CISA work that is being done. So maybe reflect that somehow.
It's like we want to promote interoperability between the different VEX implementations, something along those lines.
Yeah, yeah, something along those lines. Promote, strive to maintain. I don't know.
Additional thoughts or comments?
Just reading the words, the mission does seem a little narrow compared to the vision, but I haven't figured out a way to change it yet. I have no suggestion.
And we don't have to solve it today,
okay.
but I would like
Yep.
to get this tied off so that we can
Yeah.
focus on, we're looking forward to the demo and, making some more plans of actions to take. But we can definitely take this up in Slack or as a discussion in GitHub, however we want to manage ourselves.
Yeah, I had a suggestion for the mission. Sorry if I haven't introduced myself. Sanket, I've been a practitioner for many years, been a security researcher, been a head of DevOps, been a CISO, currently working on a solution for the SCRM space. So that's my introduction. I've been trying to come up to speed, attending many of these meetings and trying to come up to speed on how these things work, just on the open source side. So my suggestion around the mission, I think going back to what Art mentioned about being it narrow, was working back from the outcomes, which is if our vision is to create something which will provide a foundation to build reliable, efficient, and pragmatic end-to-end risk control workflows, then I think the mission should reflect how we achieve that vision. Some specific things that will help us achieve that vision. So I think interoperability is key, but it could be something that addresses the artifacts that would help us do some of those things, like providing the risk management. So I mean, we could specifically say that we are creating the standards, not just specification, but the standards and the tooling to enable adoption, or at least enable initial onboarding for people who are new to it. Is that helpful? Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm typing.
Yeah, no worries.
All right, what to additional thoughts while I finish my typing here?
I was also rudely typing and trying to listen at the same time. So I have a proposed additional sentence to the mission that might help with the scope. I typed it into the Google Notes, but I'll throw it in chat here. I don't love this, but it's a suggestion to move things forward. I'll post the whole mission here. And yeah, Sanket, I don't know if this addresses what you were saying. Again, I apologize for typing while you were speaking, but I was trying to do both at once. Oh yeah, sorry, Krobe, I see yours too.
Jinx, buy me a Coke. So how do we feel about this kind of
I like it.
Yeah,
adjustment?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the education and enablement piece and working with industry stakeholders, I think those are all good things.
And then I greedily get credit for all my time with Alan. Any additional thoughts or comments on the mission? I like how this is going. Right. So in light of what we have learned and adjusted for with the vision and mission, what do we think about the scope? With our scope being the OpenVEX specification, VEX implementation, and operationalization of vulnerability lifecycle. Say that twice, 3 times. So are we still happy with that adjusted scope?
So implementation means the tools or what do you, so because VEX implementation coming from the CISA VEX working group, it's like the spec. So
we probably maybe change implementation to VEX tooling.
if that's the intended meaning, maybe yes.
I didn't write it, and Isaac isn't here. But I can guess.
And maybe supportive tooling or
The operationalization, whatever, of vulnerability lifecycle seems a little bit too broad. Because I feel that's something bigger than VEX and even much bigger than OpenVEX itself. So maybe.
And it's hard to say.
Mhm. It's
Operationalization.
So maybe the scope would be the OpenVEX specification, promotion of VEX tooling, including like the OpenVEX CTL, and then more broadly trying to encourage upstream maintainers to issue and ingest VEX within their workflows.
Yeah, it could be. So maybe what could work for this one would be like getting an idea, like a list of ideas, a bucket list of, I think we should tackle this, and
Mhm.
then we can all think, like, weigh in if it's in scope or not. Maybe in a document on the agenda, or the agenda doesn't seem like maybe another one.
I can send a note out to our mailing list and to our Slack channel, encouraging people to kind of brainstorm on this and provide that bucket list, so to speak.
I tend to think that this could be something that's a moving target. So as we continue to evolve and as OpenVEX, because once OpenVEX gets to a workable and usable and something that's actually being utilized, that it'll evolve. And so will what we do on the CISA side. So will what we do, all this stuff is going to evolve. So I think that's the scope is a moving target. If we do the vision and the mission right, then that could be static as hell. But the scope itself, like what gets accomplished, that's constantly evolving. I think what it's looking like right now, except for the operationalization of vulnerability lifecycle, that's too broad. I think
agree.
that as far as like the work efforts, right now our focus is OpenVEX spec and then like OpenVEX tooling and then VEX implementation. And it's our scope right now because that's what we want to do. Our 30, 60, 90 surrounded by that. But then once we get to 90 and we start thinking 120, 180 and so on, that's going to change. And I think we have room to make that change with the mission and the vision.
Yeah, it allows us to adapt to the backlog we want to work on and the contributors we have coming in and what they're willing to collaborate with us on, but still have our core focuses.
So I had a suggestion.
Please.
So I think what would be helpful, again, being a newcomer, would be what use cases where it could be used, and because we're talking about upstream and downstream, specifying what the upstream and what the ecosystem looks like. Where does it fit in the ecosystem? Would be interesting, whether it's an architecture diagram or something else which says that, okay, how does it what would it do and what would it not do? Right. So how is it going to interact with SPDX and CycloneDX and others, and which parts it would satisfy? Where would it be embedded in those standards? Where could it stand independently? And what the interfaces would be with other standards. Even if that's from a guidance perspective, I think that would be interesting. Right. And then the other working groups would be able to interface better.
And I think to your one point, Senket, that we easily could take the CISA use cases and tailor that to specific open source scenarios.
Right.
So, as an upstream maintainer, I need to do this. As a downstream consumer or as a middle supplier, that type of thing. So we can figure out and tailor the existing document to our specific perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then I think it creates guiding principles, and I think there'll be decisions we need to make down the line about, hey, should we do this or not? And then you can go back to those guiding principles based on the scope.
Additional thoughts? Please, Joachim.
Yeah, to chime in on the same note, I think it also ties well to the adoption aspect that we mentioned in the mission to drive adoption, and I think that's really one of the core things that we want to try to do, to get people to use it and to understand the value and what it can bring them. Yeah, like evangelizing and showing examples of how it can be used to improve the current state of vulnerability management, and how it can help people, so that we get more people on board and understanding the value. And that's definitely something that I think is one of the main things that we want to try to advance.
Additional thoughts or comments? All right. Again, I will send a note to the mailing list with our current proposed words. We'll see if we get people to engage in providing additional feedback. We'll see if we can get this particular exercise wrapped up for our next session. And again, we always will have the ability to adjust and adapt as we need to going forward. But I think this is some good direction. I appreciate everyone's feedback and collaboration on it. Do we have any other topics to discuss today in our last 13 minutes?
I added one, but I think it's more suited for the other meetings, for the more technical one.
Yeah. Yeah, and well, I'd like to actually get that on noted in the calendar, so we have, and what our purpose of going forward is going to be, is we're going to have one call will be primarily focused on the technology, the development, and the spec maintenance, and then the other call will focus in, will alternate, and the other call will be focused in on the evangelism, the engagement with other standards and other teams like Cyclone DX and SPDX and whatnot. So that way we can help get momentum and let people focus where they'd like to focus. And then next week maybe we'll start our next time, since we're going to have a demo. Well, that'll be the kickoff of our technical call. And then so this would be the alternating pattern of the evangelism call, whatever we want to call it.
Sounds great.
All right. Any additional items to discuss today, team? Okay. Well, thank you for your time and attention. And remember that May 25th will be our Australia meeting with the OSV folks. And we'd like to see if we can talk about potential collaboration with them, if there's any opportunity to join forces between the open vulnerability schema and the OpenVEX spec, to see if there's any opportunity to cooperate. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers.
Thank you.
Well.